Hey all, Ryan Carnahan here. I just had a really cool experience this morning. I was going for a walk with my brother. He doesn't live here in town, lives in a different city, but we decided, you know what, we're going to get on the phone at the same time. We're both going to walk. We're going to have a conversation. I wanted to do that with him because over Thanksgiving break, uh, he wanted to play video games. He wanted to play Halo. He wanted to get together with the brothers and sit down with the controllers and just like the old times like we used to, which I never do. I don't play video games, but for Thanksgiving, why not? Right? So we're sitting there, we're playing, having a good time. And he turns and says, you know, Ryan, do you remember back when I wanted to get the Xbox? I came to you and said, Ryan, do you want to go half in on getting an Xbox? He said, do you remember what you said to me? I said, no, no, I don't. He said, you said, no, I will not. But when you get an Xbox, I will play it. That was like a slap across the face. I was like, oh my gosh, how how entitled I must have been as an older brother. How man, the limiting mindset that I had where and just looking back on it, totally true. Like I felt stuck. I didn't feel like I had the resources to go out and get something. I wasn't a go-getter. I would constantly tell myself that one, I can't desire things because I don't have a way to get them. And then that turned into, well, I'm not worthy of being interested in things or desiring things. And it just, man, for so many years kept me locked up. And he told me that, and I'm like, oh man, like not only was my limiting mindset hurting me, but it was turning me into a jerk for other people around me. That's horrible. That sucks to hear. And so I was ruminating on that for days and days after Thanksgiving. And I said, you know what? I need to set up this call. I need to go for a walk with my brother and have a conversation with him. So this is how it went. I said, you know what? You mentioned that at Thanksgiving, and I can only imagine that you've got to have 100 more of those stories of where Ryan just wasn't supportive or wasn't there for you. And I just got to say, I am so sorry that I was like that. I'm so sorry that you had that experience of, you know, being hurt or cast off. And it opened up the doors to have this really interesting conversation where uh, I shared with him. I said, you know what? All those years growing up, a lot of times I was frustrated with you. I was angry. Uh, but really, the reason why I was angry was because I was jealous. He was my younger brother, but he was taller. He was stronger. He was more athletic. He was more charismatic. He was more likable. He was more outgoing. So I brought this up. I said, you know, like I remember hearing a story where you would go into the cafeteria at lunch in high school and you would find these kids that you didn't really know, you kind of knew them, but you saw that they were playing poker, and you would sit down with them and you'd play the game and you'd come out on top and you would go and you'd get yourself pizza, right? Which is like the prize lunch. And I just said, you were a go-getter, you were a tiger. And what was I? I this was something that he didn't know. I shared with him throughout middle school and high school, 7 years of sitting around during lunchtime at school. I didn't go to the cafeteria. I was too intimidated to be around people that I didn't know. I didn't want people to talk to me. I didn't know how to talk to other people. The whole thing was really uncomfortable and it was loud, it was crazy. And so I decided I would rather sit alone in the library and wait for the bell to ring. Because at least in class, the teacher had structure telling us what to think, how to think. Right? So when it was just free time, I would withdraw, I would isolate. And you know how I felt the whole time? I felt lonely and depressed. Go figure. So I shared that with him just to say, like, you know what? Like, you have these qualities that I I wished I had when I was younger. I'm figuring it out now, but man, like I spent all those years being so frustrated with you that I could have let it turn into resentment to where like I can't possibly talk with my brother because he's this, and I hate all that stuff about him. But if I'm really honest with myself, no, I love that he has those qualities. I'm striving to build those qualities in myself, right? I'm finally open to that. And when we had this conversation, he started opening up to me about his side and his perspective on things. And he said, "You know what? There was another experience I had with you that was actually really positive, where we were playing this video game, and I kept asking you, how do you do this and how do you do that, and it got to a point where I guess I asked you too many times how to do something." And he said, "Ryan, you told me this. You said, you know what? I'm not going to tell you anymore. You can figure this out on your own." And he took that as like, "Oh man, but like, could you tell me more?" No, okay, he's not. Well, maybe I can figure this out. Maybe I have what it takes to do it on my own. And Ryan says that that's how he figured it out, so maybe I can too. So he shared that experience with me, and I'm just sitting there thinking like, this is kind of like an anti example. Like, my man, you're telling me that I was a role model to you because of another instance of where I said I'm frustrated and I'm not going to help you out. But in this case, he chose in that moment to take that as, well, he's not going to help me because he believes that I can figure this out. I can figure this out. And I can see how for years that shaped his life, how he went out and he found ways to figure it out. Right? He got the lesson that I wish I always had. And man, what's so ironic about that story is that we all tell ourselves stories. That's how we interpret the goings on in our life. But here's the thing, not all stories are created equal. Two people can have the exact same situation happen to them, wildly different interpretations of what it meant to them, of how they're going to then carry that experience into future experiences. We both grew up in the same household, same parents, same parenting style, same same Boy Scout activities, same social groups, almost like so many commonalities. But he came out with different strengths than I did. Why is that? Because I chose, I didn't know I was choosing it at the time, but I was choosing to tell myself stories that kept me stuck. Here's the most amazing thing. As an adult, I'm figuring out you can tell yourself stories to reverse and get out of being stuck. You can tell yourself stories that empower you, that give you the energy and the strength and the fortitude to face uncertainty, to face unknowns, and to pull through and get the things that you want out of life. If you want to be fit, you want to have an amazing, incredible relationship with your wife, you want to be the man for each one of your kids to where each kid knows that you know who they are, you know their strengths, you build them up, you can absolutely become everything that you want to be in this life. It starts with telling yourself the right stories, getting your identity right, getting clear on what that means. But man, if you can do that, you can do anything.